Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Ni hao, Buenos dias, Heseche, Aquaba, Welcome, what up, do? This is Cafe Melange, week numero 9, session numero 3. We're doing it again. It wasn't done yesterday, so that's my bad. For whom it cares. Topic for today. It's kind of like a melange of topics. Mindful of the battery, mindful of the storage, mindful of the relevance, mindful of the necessity. Actually, like I said, a couple of topics. I'm trying to think of how much to get into it. The primary topic that seems to be most pressing, most urgent, or most relevant at the moment pertains to transcendence, something along those lines. It's again in response to another additional YouTube video, so I'll keep watching that YouTube. But the thing about it is it's incomplete. It's unfinished. It has yet to be processed thoroughly and properly, and so I'm hesitant in like articulating a semblance of it because it is weighty, and I particularly because it's on the spiritual side and the religious side, without the intention of proselytizing any specific dharma. However, there are implications along those lines, and there may be perceived teachings or guidance, and I don't want to be unduly misguiding. So that's what I'm hesitant about. However, again, it's on the dome at the moment. It's a window. Mañana is the light day, so I ain't sharing it mañana. That would be waiting till next week, and then the way I experience things, it might be something else going on next week. It might not be feeling it or whatever else. So it's a window at the moment, so this is what I share. So again, I watched a couple of additional episodes or sessions of the Grapevine. I'm also going to throw in an intro to the other topic before I get to that. Is I watched some episodes of the Tifu. I think it's called Tifu or Tifo, which is a footballing series or a footballing channel on YouTube. And that's actually the crux of the conversation or the topics that I have to share at the moment. Unless somebody else joins in. Yeah, I get to follow up on that. Too tough at the moment as well. That's one of the things I'm working on within the next week. This week and next week. So the football joint is second. The first joint is the spiritual, religious transcendence thing. Partially revelatory. And it goes like this. I was watching again the Grapevine, and the particular sessions of these, there are two conversations. One session was on interracial relationships, and the other session was on biracial and black. So these are actually, again, very relevant to the topic and experience of Mélanger. And again, for context, Grapevine is a group of young people of African ancestry, Nubians, black folk on this continent that talk about contemporary topics. Often it's pop culture. In this particular case, it was kind of contemporary culture, contemporary experience. So again, interracial relationships is one of the topics, and then the other topic of the other session was biracial and blackness. And these were done actually a few years ago. And I saw portions of it, I think, before, but I watched the gist of each one in the past day. So I don't think this one's mine. So anyway, without getting into like the details of what the comment was about, I do want to do like a response to some of it, but uh, some people obviously didn't support interrelational relationships. Some people did support it, um, and some people were very critical about mixed people. There was, in terms of, there was the concern about interracial relationships was for people, black folk, being self-hating, and categorically dating somebody outside their own race because of certain insecurity and shit along those lines, which is understandable. But again, there's also tends to be a very excessive judgmentalism as well, a reactionary kind of judgmentalism, because there's still that thorn in the paw. And so, anyways, that's one thought with the interrelational relationships. It was respectful, and there was not any like hard line kind of like vitriol or anything. So I appreciate that. People were respectful and thoughtful and had relevant comments and insight, perspectives from a number of different sides. The topic on biracial and being black. There were brethren who were biracial. There were two people, actually, at least two people in that convo. There's another sister from Puerto Rico, but that might have been the interrelation relationship joint. But anyway, there were two people who were mixed, who identified as mixed, and represented that experience fairly well, but also identifying as black, and so without question. And so I think both articulated a nice perspective and fair perspective, balanced perspective. In some ways, I agree with what they share. In some ways, I disagree. But again, we're all individuals, and so we speak from our own experience. And additionally, and it's not there's congruence within it as well. So, like I said, I think they represent well, um, and actually very similar to how I represent. But I think with some different experiences. Um, I think also I draw upon my HBCU experience considerably in being considerably, not completely, in being at home with my African heritage. I was going to say black, that's why I did that. My African heritage and identity, Nubian, um, but also my politics. But so before I get into that, what I want to say is a general response. Again, some people were like, biracial is biracial and respect that and respect their black heritage as well. They shouldn't have to choose. Some people were like, you always be questioned. You always have to do this, that, and the other. So it was kind of trippy to see that, and to hear it, because you see we experience already, but for it to be articulated explicitly, it's like, aha, it's like double standard, because again, it's that reactionary, judgmental, and condemnation and subordination. Um, and what it prompts the consideration of this, that the way that the identity, the moderator of the conversation brought this up nearly at the beginning, but it wasn't actually answered. Um, the question is, what is black? What is blackness? What is black identity? And a lot of people kind of reverted to kind of like uh, the blood quantum standard, particularly predicated upon phenotype appearance, as kind of like the hierarchy of who can claim to be black and who can judge others accordingly. Um, but again, the question was unanswered. After she asked it, the kind of conversation kind of went on some other directions. It's a critical question, because what I observed from that conversation and from my experience in life, but it kind of occurred to me when watching the video, is that basically, um, it's very interesting. It seems as though black folk, quote unquote black folk, um, on this continent and perhaps in the Western Hemisphere, particularly in the United States, have a very Christian approach towards being black. And by that, I don't necessarily mean identifying as Christian, but the methodology of identifying. And it's like this. It's an experience of pain. It's an experience of suffering, um, and so the affirmation of a black identity is one that claims allegiance, um, and claims allegiance with that suffering. Um, and so, and it's just a proclamation. That's all it is. That's effectively what it is. And it's a continual proclamation. And it's a proclamation that's called into question and tested, this and the other. and then it becomes a question of what people are willing to do for that proclamation, or amidst that proclamation. But it's basically a proclamation, and that is very insufficient in terms of a foundation for community building and community relationship. I mentioned before the teachings, particularly that Confucius says, but additional within our respective traditions of Earth, that community and relationship is not just a matter of proclamation or identity. Um, it's a matter of principles. It's a matter of discipline. It's a matter of a code that people are held accountable to, and there being certain standards, so that it's not just somebody's opinion versus another person's opinion. Some ambiguity of like, oh, I'm dark and this, that, yeah, I got Afrocentric features, or maybe I have this affiliation. Maybe I even speak a certain language. Maybe I've been on the continent, so I what I say, that holds weight. It's beyond that. It's a matter of like looking. Those are all relevant, but it's not categorical, and it's a matter of principles, the ethics that people live, the behavior, how one conducts oneself, so that it's not just some kind of arbitrary. Oh, nah, they didn't do it right. And so when we do criticize, critique, evaluate, discriminate the behavior of others, the stance of others, the decisions of others. It's not just on what their blood quantum is or what their phenotype is, but what their actions are, and how those actions affect others, and also how those actions support and promote and enhance the Black experience, how those actions honor our ancestors, how those actions provide for our progeny for the next 7 generations and beyond, and continually. Those are the hallmarks of healthy community, healthy relationship, and healthy identity along those lines. And so that's something that's lacking at the moment, generally within the Black experience. Um, there's very strong identity, and rightfully so, with Black experience, Black heritage, and additionally, but there's an absence of those categorical principles. We can go to Kwanzaa, and the Swahili name for the principles of Kwanzaa escaped me at the moment. I'm just thinking of Time Ziwe at the moment, which is actually Zulu, um, nearby. But there's an absence of readily recognized principles. We can talk about Umoja and Kuchitagali additionally, but those are kind of like, um, those have yet to like translate into um, widely known, readily accessed concepts and principles that are categorically adopted and instituted within a Black community. And so otherwise, again, it's just this ambiguous identity, and it's proven by, again, appearance and then what somebody's willing to do. And I say it's like the Christian identity, because within many Christian denominations and Christianity at large, there are principles and there are this and the other. However, in terms of being identified as a Christian or self-identified as a Christian, many people simply just proclaim Jesus as Savior or whatever what one's faith describes, and that's it. It's just a matter of proclaiming faith, and then whether the person attends service, whether the person is doing charitable works, whether the person is a monastic celibate or whatever else, those are arguable, this, that, and the other. And then there's the hierarchical politics that are along those lines, but it's primarily just a matter of proclamation. And oftentimes people in like doing that, like the binary litmus test of are you with us, or are you without, or against us. It's whether people are willing to proclaim Jesus in certain way, um, and that's like the binary, and then people are qualified along those lines. So it's similarly with Black. Do you identify and do you have blood quantum? And then if the blood quantum is less than somebody else's, well, then you just have to like get in where you fit in, and then deal with that. And that's just life. So again, there's got to be principles. There's got to be ethics. There's got to be standards that are widely recognized, not just by one individual, not just by one group, but across the board. And it may begin with one individual, it might begin with one group, and become increasingly organically, naturally, the standard through which um, the the masses, or a larger mass of Black folk, people of African ancestry, Nubians, um, coalesce. So that was one of the considerations of just like the whole time they were talking about being black and who's black and how biracial people identify or fit in within that spectrum. There was yet an absence of identifying what black actually is. So that was one concern, one observation. Um, One other thing I'll say in terms of critique, and then this is not what I was actually talking about in terms of like getting to it, and the battery is getting down there. All right. I think there's all right. So another one was that there was an example brought about in the conversation about a biracial brother who was on a platform in pop culture, in popular media, and was making a statement for people of African ancestry, and then he was lambasted for that because there was resentment about him um, representing black folk and him being mixed. So does he actually legitimately represent black folk? And here's another example of mixed people being favored by the Eurocentric oppression and utilizing that platform for self promotion and this and the other. And so, like, wait a minute, he's up there and he's doing something that's positive or saying a positive message. And I'm not making an evaluation of what he's actually saying, but I'm making an evaluation of the critique. But it's like even when he does that, he's still getting roasted over the rakes, or whatever it's called. He's still getting blasted for doing that. And some people, now that was one component of the criticism. A lot of people were talking in support of him and like, yo, he's been doing it throughout his career, so it ain't nothing new. It's not just self-promotional. He's got a long track record speaking to that effect and utilizing his opportunities for promoting the interests and the well-being of people of African ancestry. So that was the widely held perspective amongst the group. But that criticism about him being self-promotional and him being materially affluent and having, I don't utilize the word privilege because privilege is an illusion and it's oppression. And people get too much caught up in that concept. So I'm going to abstain from utilizing that concept or phrase or word in this joint. But they talk about him utilizing his platform or opportunities for self-promotion. And actually, there's certain legitimacy within that. But then the question is, what do you want him to do? Like, what do you expect from him? And that question was asked. And basically, it was just a matter of like, yo, I'm still mad that I'm catching hell or that I'm being devalued or whatever else. So here's this dude who's claiming to be part of me. I'm going to like continually, um, perpetually degrade or belittle or subjugate just because I don't perceive that person to be as suffering to the degree I am. Because again, blood quantum phenotype. And blood quantum phenotype is the legitimate standard for evaluating people, perceiving people, because it's been utilized as a premise for oppression. So I get that. But here's the thing: the criticism was basically that articulated by strong intelligence in education, because you can tell. But the criticism was basically that he wasn't doing enough. He wasn't dismantling the system. And again, we're going back to that double negative that I mentioned the other day about overthrowing racism. Just learn yourself and be that as much as possible. So again, that was that concern about he's not doing enough. Him standing on that podium and making that speech, it's not making any change. It's not ending racism. Well, is that what you expect? And the thing is this: the platform was in a media outlet that's managed by, or presumably by, people of African ancestry. And so the question is, well, what do you expect for him to be able to do on that podium? What do you expect from the network? And are you going to hold the network accountable for not doing what it can to promote people of African ancestry and identity, experience, and well-being? Because if you're going to hold that standard and be that critical about that dude, our brother who's doing that, let's do it for all around. Let's hold all cats accountable. And then I think people would either regress or wake up from that response. But it goes even further. How about yourself? What are you doing? Why are you looking at that channel? If the brother's not doing it, and if the station or the channel or the network's not doing it, why are you going to it then? And now you got to hold yourself accountable. And so that's part of the solution. Liberation is not conferred; it is acted. It is done. And so we got to get off that that spoiled child, whine kind of expectation of things being done for us, and do it ourselves. And when it ain't done ourselves, or if people ain't cooperating sufficiently, divest. Withdraw from the things that are being oppressive, the things that are being unattentive or disrespectful or dehumanizing or whatever is disagreeable. Divest. Then invest in what is supportive. And it might not be the brand name this, that, and the other. It might not be the flashy whip this, that, and the other. It might not be the trendy neighborhood this, that, and the other. Where you getting your sense of self from? You got to hold yourself accountable for that. We got to hold ourselves accountable for that. And stop pointing the fingers, because when we point the fingers, we take the power away from ourselves, and we're giving it wherever the target of that finger is. When we point the finger at ourselves, we empower ourselves, and then we can make a decision accordingly and deal with the consequences accordingly, but also deal with the blessings accordingly as well. And the blessings just bring further challenges and further weight, and that's the weight of the crown. So many cats living like princes with the want of the crown. We have to remember the kingly walk and progress in the kingly walk, which is the weight of the crown. It's heavy. So that's why. So if you want it, truly. Anyways, particularly in democracy, or so-called democracy, republic, and additionally. So anyways, that was another thing. Again, that wasn't what I was getting into. What I was getting into is this. All that being said, to all the brethren that participate, particularly in those conversations, beautiful. Again, to see the intelligence, and additionally, it's affirmational, and it's appreciated. So I'm not coming at cats or whatever. I'm just sharing. Again, it's frustrating to hear the convo and have an interest in participating. Like y'all need to holler at me. Y'all need my voice. Y'all need what I have to share. But the methodologies of direct communication at the moment are somewhat leave it at that. So anyways, this is what I have to share. Again, like I said, it's in process. It's unfinished. I have to continually check. I might actually, if the battery gets low, I'll just go inside and continue inside. Connect the battery. So, now I'm getting the storage joint. So I'm going to stop the recording here and then record it again, just so that this one takes, and then work on the other one. That storage is a beast.